Hello everyone, welcome to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. We have got our fingers crossed, toes crossed, arms crossed, everything is crossed today because, as you know from last week, we had a few tech issues. And so I'm very much hoping, after having done quite a few tests, I think we're going to be okay. Certainly my pre-chat with our special guest, Dr. Claudia Friedlander, went swimmingly. So I can only think that we're going to be fine. And certainly that's how it's looking. As you can see, we've even got headphones on today, trying to eliminate any reason that things could go wrong. So I do hope that everything's going to be okay. Here's the contingency. If we do run into the same issue that we had last week, it could happen. There are tech gremlins out there that just arrive. If that happens, what we're going to do is I'll discontinue the live show for today, and then I will pre-record, and Claudia and I will just continue our discussion, and we're going to just do a pre-record, and I will show that at a later date. So fingers crossed that's not what's going to happen, because you tune in live every week, and I really want to bring you Dr. Claudia live so that you can ask some questions as we go along as well. So my great hope is that we'll all be good. Now, I'm still a little bit under the weather. You might be able to hear it in my voice. I've still got myself a little bit of a cough going on, and but we're going to struggle through that. Things are, progressing quite well. Now, just so I don't forget that next week we do have another special guest, Dr. Kari Ragan, and she's written this wonderful text, which I'm in the middle of reading at the moment, A Systematic Approach to Voice. Really looking forward to that. So, all things being equal, chime in next week. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the white bell icon so you get notified of our live shows. But without further ado, let's find out if everything's going to be okay with our live hangout with Dr. Claudia Friedlander, who we'll meet right after this.
Sound check. Check 1, check 2.
Okay. Are we going to be okay?
I think we're going to be fantastic.
Oh.
We'll have to wait 30 seconds and then we'll find out.
Yes, well, that was kind of what happened last week, wasn't it? And you've been so gracious to come back after our technical difficulties last week. But how are we going? You can hear me okay? You're not getting a double whammy?
Not yet. Everything seems to be going great.
Not yet. Everyone, keep your fingers crossed, toes crossed. Everything's got to be crossed as we dive in, because I've been so excited to have you on the show, and I've been made to wait an extra week because this is a book I go to on frequent basis. This is fantastic, and it's really quite surprising that there's not more text available in this field. But when I found this book, and I want to say it was Dr. Shannon Coates who kind of brought my attention to this book through one of her Facebook posts. Dr. Shannon being a good friend of the channel and of me personally. But anyway, I've read this cover to cover, complete vocal fitness. It's fantastic. How did you come to write the book, Claudia?
Oh, I'm so grateful that I was able to write the book, that the community became as interested as they are now in using fitness modalities to assist with singing. If you've read the book cover to cover, and so thank you very much for doing that, then you've read my backstory, which is that I always loved to sing, but I did not have a naturally beautiful or facile voice, and so nobody wanted to hear me sing. I had a very sort of abrasive, loud voice. And so I picked up the clarinet instead, because everybody was shushing me in the choir. That was no fun. I picked up the clarinet and I enjoyed that. And I never let go of the idea that, like, I really just want to sing. Singing is really where my heart is. And then I had the opportunity in my early 20s to do some body work that enabled me to release a lot of chronic muscular tension that had been inhibiting my articulators and my throat and my breathing. And there was this voice that suddenly people wanted to hear. It was actually pretty dramatic. So my origin story as a singer was very much involved in realizing that not only can I coordinate my instrument, but I can make physical changes to my instrument that will help. And the physical changes that came about, I wasn't even trying to sing. I was just trying to feel better, breathe more, move better. So I just became fascinated in the possibility that fitness modalities could be useful for helping our instruments function better. And the more I learn about it, the more I see that that's true.
It's so wonderful for people, people watching our chat today to hear a story like yours, as you've just so eloquently laid it out, to say, I didn't come to this a natural singer. I didn't come to this with it all figured out and my voice just, that you were able to do really proactive things to, in a sense, allow your voice to emerge.
And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful that I was willing to give it another shot because it was very scary. I'd gotten such bad feedback the first time, and I was getting positive feedback for my musicianship in other areas. So it was very vulnerable and very, scary for me to get back into it. But when I realized that I actually could do this thing that I'd always wanted to do, I was so delighted. And so as a teacher, it's a big part of my motivation to teach too, because I know that it's possible. And I think that under most circumstances, anybody can learn to sing if they have the commitment to the process, they're willing to put in the work, and they've got good resources, which is why I'm so grateful to you for providing these resources on an ongoing basis.
And thank you. And you also have, I just want to let people know, you also have a channel here on YouTube that people can go and check out. And they also can access, for those who are going to want to, get to know you a bit better after the show, there's also your website, liberatedvoice.studio, which is a new site, yes?
It's a new site for me, and so I tried to spruce it up knowing that, oh my goodness, here's an opportunity where people might want to find out about me. So it's still under construction, but you should be able to find everything that you need there, and I'll keep adding things to it.
So where do you currently teach?
I teach out of my private studio in New York City. It's a brand new location for me here. I don't know how much your audience understands life in the United States, or particularly in New York City, but with everything that's been happening, one of the things that's happened here is that the real estate market has just gone crazy. My landlord of 15 years decided to try to raise my rent 74%. So I left, and as a consequence, I am in a really beautiful place now. I guess that's Hell's Kitchen. I'm still on the west side,
right? And
I teach from my home, and I've got a view of, almost the Hudson River.
Okay, we actually a lot of our students, a lot of our viewers are going to know where you are, because a lot of our viewers are from the US. The vast majority of my viewing audience are in the Northern Hemisphere, so I think everyone will have a pretty good idea as to where you are and where you hail from.
Shout out to everybody who's staying up late to watch this. Thank you.
We do get some night owls here at Voice Essentials, like yourself right now. I'm really interested in the fact that you're also you're not just a singing teacher. You're also a trained personal trainer, as in a PT. Tell us
Yes.
a bit more about that interest and love.
I became a certified fitness trainer more than 20 years ago at this point, because I realized that when I was working with my singers, I couldn't get them to just stand up straight and take a deep breath if they didn't have the resources to be able to stand up straight and take a deep breath, or even know what that means. And I remembered my beginnings as a singer and realized that all these chronic muscular tensions had been impeding my ability to learn singing technique. So I wanted to be able to offer resources that would help people to not only coordinate their instrument, but condition their instrument. And so I certified as a fitness trainer, and I actually worked in gyms. I worked for New York sports clubs, and I worked for Equinox for about 2 years. And now I continue to maintain my fitness certification, and I use it to work with people who are studying singing with me, so that I can help them stand up straight and take a deep breath. And the reason that I'm so interested in fascia right now is that I've been studying and developing all of these techniques to help singers improve range of motion for their abdomen and rib cage to be able to inhale more fully and thus be able to support their breath better.
Yeah, and I'm going to be really interested to do a little bit of a deep dive into your understanding around fascia, and I said, I think at the beginning of last show, which may have got lost, I said, because I often say it as fascia, but you say fascia, and I potato, but we'll go with your expert pronunciation, fascia.
It's how we say it in my part of the world, fascia. I like A better than ah. Anyway, so
anyway, we'll run with fascia. It just reminds me of there's a movie where Fascia. I think that's an Austin Powers movie, isn't it? Fascia.
Fascia. I don't know.
I do want to talk about fascia in a moment, but before we do, I want to just explore this idea of gyms and singers a little bit. Now, I full disclosure, I have a video within the channel where I talk about, going to the gym as a singer, and it's one thing that I've always really cautioned singers around, because I'll be honest and say I don't know. I should revisit the video because it's one of my much older ones. I don't know that I did a very good job of communicating this, but because so many people, when they attend a gym, which I do, and I'll put my hand up and say I do go to a gym, but often when they attend a gym and they're not being cared for and directed by someone like yourself, a PT, there is so much opportunity to do exercises incorrectly, to have bad body form and all of those things. Can you talk us through some of those cautions around attending a gym, and where we as singers need to be mindful about what work we do in going to gyms?
Okay, so that opens a can of worms here. Because even if you do have the help of somebody who is a certified fitness trainer, you might not be able to get the kind of attention that you want. And even if you had studied with me, even if you trained with me back in the day when I was just like doing all of the things that I had learned from my certification with the National Academy of Sports Medicine, which I will give them a shout out. That's a good certification. It's a really, really good introduction to fitness. But the way that I look at it now is that it's not just that if you're just throwing weights around, you know what you're doing, you might do something counterproductive for your voice. But even if you're working with a fitness trainer, they might not really understand how to meet your needs. And the reason that I say that is that our whole training paradigm right now is not premised on functionality the way that I think of functionality. I'm very interested in sports specific training, right? I want to be able to help you, develop the best instrument that you can have for the singing that you want to do. But the modern fitness industry is premised on the idea that if you train with me, I'm going to make you look like an elite athlete. And the fastest way for me to help you look like an elite athlete is going to be to pump up your muscles fast in a way that's not necessarily functional, and that's going to be super counterproductive for your singing.
Yeah. One of the challenges I've found, especially with a lot of young men who want to attend a gym and do a lot of upper body toning, is as a result of that, and my anecdotal experience with this over the years has been very much, let me just change that, has been very much that upper body toning tends to create a lot of, upper torso tension, shoulders into the neck, which creates a lot of struggle for the voice. What I loved about your text is how holistic its approach is body wise in building an overall fitness and balance in the musculature, and that's I guess always been my concern. Can you talk to that with the whole overtoning of the musculature?
Oh, yeah. Well, again, with a view to functionality, if you're thinking about like, how can I make this work better, right? As opposed to how can I make this look better, you're going to have a completely different paradigm.
Yeah.
Because even among, just your weekend warrior bodybuilders who aren't trying to build balance in a way that would actually earn them points in competitions, what they want to do is they want to build up the glamour muscles, right? They want to like have well-defined pecs, and they want to have like well-defined lats, and certainly they want to have that six-pack.
Yeah.
And women, they want to tone their arms, and they don't want to build up too much bulk. And when it's all about aesthetics, it's kind of the enemy of functionality, because you can make your arms look really great in a way that will not necessarily help you be able to throw a ball better. And you can definitely tone up your core in a way that is not going to help you breathe better. It throws everything out of balance in a way that might not be that big a problem, at least while you're still young, for people who just want to like strut around and display their abs. But if you want a body that actually works, whether you want to use it to sing or you want to be able to use it to canoe and hike, your typical bodybuilding paradigm that is offered in gyms is going to throw your whole system out of whack.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to do something with precision functionally.
What do you find, and I want to kind of allow this to segue into further discussion around your biomechanics and fascia. What do you find are some really important gym activities for a person who is predominantly focused on developing their voice but wants to maintain fitness to be able to do that well? What do you encourage those singers who are using facilities at a gym? What do you encourage them to do activity-wise?
Well, there are the things to do and then the things to maybe not do. In terms of the things to do, anything that improves your cardiorespiratory fitness is going to be fantastic for you as a singer. If you find that you are not, if you don't have the kind of stamina that you want as a singer, you can't make it to the end of a really, really long phrase on one breath, perhaps, or you find that you are just like running out of energy in the middle of a set or in the middle of an act if you're performing musical theater or opera, then improving your cardiorespiratory fitness is really an excellent thing to focus on, because it improves your, what we call your oxygen consumption and also your stroke volume. Those are the measures of cardiorespiratory fitness. Stroke volume means how many times does your heart have to beat to be able to circulate your blood, like how often does it have to beat? So that's like your resting heart rate. Improving your stroke volume means your heart doesn't have to pump as often. Your resting heart rate goes down, which is also great for nerves. And so it's just much more efficient. How much oxygen you consume means that you don't have to breathe as frequently. So if you're singing a very, very long phrase, sometimes when you feel like you're out of breath, it might not be that you're actually out of air to power your instrument.
Yeah.
Your body might just be sending you a signal that you're out of oxygen, and so you have to take a deep breath. So that's the number one thing.
I'm really quite chuffed to hear you lay that out, because the thing I'm generally encouraging singers to do who are keen to develop a healthy lifestyle and approach that by doing going to the gym is I do direct them to aerobic activities, swimming being one of those activities that is just so great on a holistic level for the body, but also because of the way it moves the rib cage and the intercostal muscles and the flow of air. What besides swimming, what do you also encourage?
Well, if you enjoy swimming, then definitely go swimming. It's just an amazing whole body thing, and also from the point of view of the fascia or fascia that we haven't talked about, you're going to be elongating everything. You're going to feel a stretch all the way from the tips of your fingers to your toes when you swim. So swimming is amazing. But what's important is that you do something that you enjoy, and there are lots of different things that can improve your cardiorespiratory fitness. The quick and dirty but strategy is something called interval training, where you systematically engage in, and you could do this with swimming or other things too, but you can very easily do it on a treadmill or other cardio device, which is just do something that's going to raise your heart for a while, and then cool it back down, and then raise it, and then cool it back down, because that teaches your body that you want it to be able to do this for you. And it's one of the best strategies that we have for quickly improving cardiorespiratory fitness. And you can do it. You can do it on a rowing machine. You can do it going for a walk. You know, walk a little, run a little, walk a little, run a little. You can do it swimming. Whatever you enjoy. That's
a little secret. I
do.
don't have access to a pool, so my two main activities when I go to the gym are treadmill and rowing machine, and you know, I find that they're really helpful, and because I got an upper back issue, the rowing machine is really good workout, but I do, you know, and I have to do a little bit of weight training for my upper back, but I'm very careful to remembering that, just as you said, Claudia, that my end goal is better vocal health, not, you know, you don't have to see me standing up to know that it's not, you know, overly toned muscles. So let's talk about the biomechanics then of that we require for singing, and what do we? Can you talk us through this? You know, we have this greater understanding now, don't we, of a holistic approach to our biomechanics, and that dynamic, buoyant state that our body needs to be in when we sing. Talk us through, and I want to kind of then segue into fascia. I've got to always stop and think about how I'm going to pronounce it. Fascia. Tell us, how did we? Because we've got forefathers around Alexander technique, Feldenkrais, all that sort of stuff. Where are we now with our understanding about body mechanics?
I can only say where I am now with my understanding of body mechanics, and I think that's probably true for everybody, and that's part of the point of the way that I'm approaching things now, which is that you're the only one who knows your body. You're the only one who knows how you want to move. And my background is primarily in classical music and singing, and we're like, oh, we have to get it right. We have to get it right. And so when that's the attitude, you don't really spend a lot of time thinking about, like, what would feel good? How would I like to breathe? How would I like to inhale and exhale? And so when you ask, like, where are we at with biomechanics? I can't really speak to anybody else, but I'm very interested in the research being done into fascia and the way fascia, now I'm confused, and how that can inform our understanding of the human movement system, because when I started learning about it, it completely exploded my understanding of how everything works. In fact, I feel like I need to write a supplement to the book, because the way that I train now is very different from the way that I was training when I wrote the book.
Interesting.
So that doesn't answer your question. But...
No, that's okay. Maybe, and I've just had a thought, you know, here we are, since starting today's show, we've been talking about how to pronounce fascia, but we haven't actually described what it is.
Yes.
And maybe that's probably where we should pick up from. I wonder if you could just give us an explanation for what fascia is.
And you know, it's funny because is so new in this field right now that you're going to get different answers, different definitions from different people. I like to think of fascia as being just the fabric of what connects the entire human movement system together. It's, you know, it's not quite the equivalent of what we think of as connective tissue. When I started learning to be a fitness trainer, we talked about connective tissue as being the fascia, and it's like when you go to the grocery store and you see like the chicken breast and that filmy little bag that it's in that you then cut away and don't use, that's the fascia. And in fact, up until just a few decades ago, when medical students would do cadaver dissection, they would actually throw away the fascia. They would just be looking at the muscles and the bones and maybe the tendons.
Wow.
But the fascia is the fabric that holds all of us together. It's when you stretch, you feel the muscles stretch, but you also feel this sort of everything that's connecting it together stretching from one end of your body to the other. And when you inhale and you feel everything expand and you feel the shape of your abdomen change and you feel the shape of your rib cage change, what you are feeling is the fascia stretching, not just all the muscles that are doing the breathing for you. You are feeling that expansive sense of the container of your entire torso moving with the breathing. What you're feeling is the fascia expanding.
Is our kinesthetic awareness more aligned with what we sense from the movement of our fascia than anything else, or is it all just combined?
It's all combined, but specifically where the fascia is concerned, where part of your kinesthetic awareness is generated, is from the proprioceptors, right? The nerves that are called proprioceptors. Those nerves, one of the things that they're detecting is pressure change, right? So when you expand and you put all that energy potential into your tissues, those proprioceptors are telling you like something is changing, something's expanding, something's moving away from the center.
Yeah,
I don't know
wow.
if that answers your question, but that's how I think of it.
No, it's just such a fascinating space. It's something that I work, we talk about a lot here on the channel. Something that I work, very intentionally with my students is kinesthetic awareness and being mindful of our movement in space, our body mechanic, being mindful of how our voice, and when I'm referring to voice, I'm talking holistically, our entire instrument, our body, how it is, behaving and operating, and it's just interesting to think about that extra layer, isn't it, of fascia, and how we feel that stretch, pull, of that connective tissue.
I think it may be the missing link. I think that like me, you like to describe what's happening with the voice in objective anatomical terms whenever possible. But when I think of my colleagues who teach in terms of just like imagery and sensation and imitation, when you feel the space expand for your resonance, right? What are you feeling? You are feeling changes in the fascia. When you take a low breath, it's like, well, the air is just going into your lungs. It doesn't go into your belly. But all of the displacement of everything in your viscera, that sense of expansion that you have all the way down to your tailbone, that's the fascia moving, and it is related to your breathing, and it does help with breath support.
Is the pleura, the connective tissue that lines the lung, is that fascia?
It depends on who you ask. I'm going to guess that most people would agree that it is.
Because it certainly has that classic connectivity between the outside of the lung to the inside of the internal intercostal.
I think that the reason that I'm not saying yes is because I would have to look it up to be certain. Again, because there are like different people say that, oh, this is fascia and this is fascia, but it doesn't really matter, right? Because if you feel it stretching, then you feel it stretching. And you feel the sense of your internal container changing because of the proprioceptors in the pleura. Yeah.
And the reason I asked the question is because I genuinely don't know the answer either. It was a question I had been wondering over the last week. And I've been thinking about pleura because I've had a chest infection. So a lot of my mental attention is in how I'm managing my cough and my sense of chest tightness, and which then directed my thinking to my pleura, and then wondering, I wonder if that's classified as fascia. So it's interesting. Something for us for both of us to go back to our libraries and have a look up. I'm wondering whether you might talk us through how can we intentionally become more connected to our connective tissue?
Well, the technique that trainers like to use is called self-myofascial release, which is just a fancy term for how to massage yourself. I'm going to give a shout out here to Jill Miller. Her channel and her website are Tune Up Fitness. She has been a real pioneer in the area of self-myofascial release, and she has created a system of massage balls that I will show some of them to you. But you don't even have to understand the ramifications of this. What I would recommend is just get a 7-inch mini yoga ball. This is Jill's, her branded ball is a Courageous ball, but you can have any little mini yoga ball, and it's a little bit squishy, right? You don't want to blow it up all the way. But this is a fantastic tool to use to explore your breathing, especially if your pleura or everything has been feeling kind of like attacked and traumatized because you've got a respiratory infection. Then probably your fascia and everything has been kind of like protective and tightening up and taking care of your ribs and your lungs. And you'd like to start feeling a little bit more expansion. Then one thing that I would recommend for somebody like that, or anybody else, because I do this on a daily basis, is to lie in a prone position, as you would for an Alexander Technique lesson, with your feet on the floor and your knees up so that your lower back feels supported. And then just place a ball underneath your rib cage. You just want to look for a position that lets you feel like your ribs are being sort of elevated off your abdomen, and that may put some strain on your neck. So you might want to put a book or a blanket or a yoga block underneath your head. But if you can just place the yoga ball at the bottom of your ribs so that you can lie on top of it and then breathe, then you're going to get a lot of feedback from where your ribs are on the ball. You're going to be able to feel your ribs in the back moving a little bit more. You're going to feel less compression, because often when the typical sort of slump that I end up working on with people to rearrange their mechanics, the sort of like forward head and shoulders in, this puts you in a position where you can just kind of breathe with your chest effortlessly elevated, your sternum effortlessly elevated. And then if you just inhale and exhale very slowly, you're going to get a lot of information about what your body wants, where it wants to release, where it wants to stretch, where it wants to expand.
Yeah, wonderful. Are we able to use, I call it a Reebok ball or a fitness ball. It's sort of larger than the one you've got there. Can we do that exercise over that larger ball?
It's a different exercise, and those are the exercises that are in my book. Yes, you can really get a great stretch for your rib cage by lying over a stability ball and breathing that way. But if you have your tailbone on the floor and your shoulders on the floor while your ribs are elevated, so that you don't have to be worrying about supporting yourself on that stability ball, then you get a much more localized sense of expansion, proprioception, a different kind of awareness for where it is. And I don't know about where you are, but you can get one of these on, Amazon, the Empire of Evil in the States for about $12 US.
Okay, so
probably less expensive than a stability ball.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it? We always want to spend. It's often when things are relatively accessible money-wise that we think surely that can't work, but they do, right?
This is my favorite thing right now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, get 2 of them, and I'll after we're done, will I be able to drop some links in the comments or something for where this is going to be posted?
Yeah. What we can do is once we finish the show, I post-edit it into the description of the
okay,
show.
so if you like, I'll send you some exercises that you can do with these mini yoga balls that I've just found so tremendously helpful from my own singing and from my students to just improve range of motion for their abdomen and their rib cage. Just incredibly simple things with really inexpensive tools that have been transformative for most of my students.
Great. Let's go to another activity that is relatively accessible for most people to do at home.
Let's see. I
I'm
am
putting
very
you on the
obsessed
spot,
with
aren't
the.
I?
Well, you know, I really feel like we need so few tools to be able to just explore our own bodies. And so that's why what I wanted to talk to you about today, because um, if we want to just experience more of ourselves, right? We just want to improve range of motion, improve kinesthetic awareness, then we don't actually need all of that much. We really don't. We think that we do, maybe because like the media wants us to think that we have to spend all this money to get in shape and do all these things. But what else would I recommend?
I was just on
Um,
that point while you're thinking of some other things. I was having a discussion with a student just at the end of last week, and I was talking about how we do find ourselves overcomplicating things, thinking that complicated makes it better.
mhm.
And yet, and we were discussing just how much you can get out of, in this particular instance we were talking about a 5-note scale. Yeah. There is so much you can do with that. It's not just a grouping of 5 notes that you sing a vowel on. You can work tone, you can work breath, you can work texture, you can work. There's so much, and yet it is just a 5-note scale. And I think we do fall into the trap, don't we, in modern society? And I see this a lot on YouTube, to be honest, where we fall into this idea that the more complex an activity is, it means it must be better. But in fact, often what happens is it's the complexity that creates the inaccessibility for most people, because complex activities often need to be really highly refined to get the benefit out of the action.
It's so silly where singing is concerned too, like how inaccessible so many of these things are, because our instrument is just our bodies.
Yeah.
Everybody has this instrument. We
Yeah.
all have this instrument. And so just like getting access to more of what your body can do is all we need as singers. Here, I'll give you another cheap tool that I'm sure that there are many people who are using this, but I'll tell you why I find it useful. This is just a medium weight TheraBand.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, we talk about wanting to have legato, right? What is legato? It's just a long line.
Yeah.
Legato is just an absence of discontinuity, right? It's just about continuity. So if you can just get a lightweight or medium weight resistance band and then just sustain while pulling on the resistance band, you're going to notice if you have continuity with what you're doing with that movement, you're going to have continuity with your phonation, with your airflow, with your expression. You know, you can just ah, and if you don't have continuity, you're going to notice that you go, all of a sudden you just sort of stretched it and then you're out of it. And it sounds silly right now, but try it. I encourage all of you to try it. You're going to find that you do things that you didn't realize that you were doing that might be making your singing a little bit more choppy than you realized, or
Yeah.
making you use up all of your energy and
Yeah.
breath faster than you realized you were doing.
Great. I love those activities where we get to, in one sense, externalize the vocal behavior. You know, and it really does, because the everlasting challenge of singing is that we are the instrument, and we can't get in and manipulate the vocal folds or the vocal track for that matter in any great way. And so having these activities that allow us the freedom to externalize and see and feel something like that rubber band is so helpful.
I really think that it is, because I mean, we're playing an instrument that most of the structures, we can't see them, we also can't feel them. And if we try to feel them, what we're going to end up feeling is something extra that we don't need.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to feel pitches changing, right? The pitches are changing because your chords are getting a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. But if you try to feel the pitch, you're going to be doing something extra and effortful that is not necessary. And so anything that we can do to help us map what's actually happening is useful. I mean, at the end of the day, the less we feel, I mean, the freer our voices are, the better coordinated our voices become, the less we're actually going to be able to feel. And that, I mean, even I still have a hard time getting used to that.
Yeah, that's what makes this learning to sing journey so intoxicating. Is you never arrive, do you? It's always a path of discovery, no matter how much knowledge we acquire. It's the knowledge, it's the application of the knowledge that is the never-ending story.
And I think that's a really good way to enjoy your life. I mean, engage in something that is just an open-ended endeavor, because you'll never get bored and you'll never run out of things to do. I mean, how many episodes of this show have you already done? And how many people have you yet to talk to?
Yeah.
It's so lovely to just do something that is a continuing source of discovery and insight and deepening our ability to connect with each other and express ourselves.
And that's what today's chat with you has been. It's just been a wonderful, learning experience for me. You've given us so much to bring we need to sort of bring our conversation to an end because we're approaching the end of the show. But I did want to just give you the opportunity to acknowledge your mentor, W. Stephen Smith, who wrote The Naked Voice, which I forgot to bring it over, but I'm currently reading that book as well, and happened to see your name quoted in that book because he acknowledges you as a student. But I wanted to just firstly give you an opportunity to acknowledge him, but I wanted to very quickly talk about a recent article that you wrote around pole vaulting, and what grabbed my eyes, because I did a video, one of my very first videos. This is back in 2016, 15. I did a video where I talked about the penultimate notes, the lead up notes. We, as singers, we spend so much time focused on that bar, that top note that we've got to get over, that we don't spend enough time thinking about the run up and the lead up to. And Stephen Smith uses a quote. He says, "It is not how high you get that matters, it's how you get high." And I just went, yes, 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 ding, 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 because he says it far more eloquently than I did in my video so many years ago. But I wondered whether you could just talk to your experience with Stephen and also give us a little bit more insight into your article about pole vaulting.
Well, I could talk about Steve. I don't know if I can, I'll try to find the context for the pole vaulting, because there are so many ways that's an analogy that I've used for different reasons. But Steve is just such a fantastic human being. I would not still be singing, let alone teaching today, if I had not met him. I encountered Steve after I'd had a very, very frustrating performance of Madame Butterfly, that I got through it, right? But I was like, if that's what singing is, I don't want to do it, because I just realized I was working much too hard. And it was keeping me from really, I loved the story and I wanted to invest in the character, and it was like, I didn't feel like I got the experience that I'd wanted. And Steve, I studied with a lot of teachers before him, and I'd read all the pedagogy books, but the thing that was different about Steve's technique, and what continues to really differentiate the way that he teaches, the way that I like to teach, and everyone in this lineage, and probably other people are doing this now too, but I had not met somebody who expressed the importance of focusing on the activities that create sound rather than the sounds, the sensations, the products, right? Steve is all focus on the product and focus on the process. It's late at night here on the East Coast of the US, people. Focus on the process and notice the product. And that was a paradigm shift that was just everything for me. It helped me focus on the process of phonation, the process of airflow, the process of expressing what was in my heart, instead of trying to figure out like what was I supposed to sound like and what was it supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
And so Steve's work has been the inspiration for everything, all of the research that I've been doing.
There's the book. While you were you're sharing that, I just went and grabbed the book. The Naked Voice is the book that we're referencing there. I also noted his discussion about process over product, because once again it's, you know, when you read things and you just find them wonderfully affirming, because process over product is something I say in my studio all the time, and which is why I really have enjoyed both his books and your book. Can I encourage everyone to go out and grab a copy? Read this edition before the next edition comes out, because I'll be the first in the queue to get the second edition. There's so much practical. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about this. It's practical. There are really well laid out, step by step practical guides on activities that you can do, and it's sensible, you know. And that's what sometimes we read these texts and you go, well, that sounds good in theory, but I don't know how applicable that is in real life. Whereas that's not this. This is applicable, usable. And so I just want to say thank you, Claudia, for coming on today a second time.
I'm so glad that it worked out.
It worked.
I also, since we're talking about the book, I just want to give a quick shout out to Sandy Escobar, who did the anatomical illustrations, because it's the book. For me, it's worth it for the illustrations alone. And if you get the ebook, they're in color. She was able to just draw the instrument. Most anatomical illustrations that you see in the vocal ped books, they're like, there's all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But she was able to really render these pictures that I had had in my head for decades, and I'm so grateful to her.
Is it anatomical pictures like
that's
that?
That's the soft palette, yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. It's just wonderfully accessible, not just for vocal pedagogues like yourself and myself, but for students of singing. And thank you so much for coming on to today's show. I was thrilled when you said that you would join us, and when the next book comes out, you'll be receiving an email from me asking you to come on again, and well, maybe we shouldn't have to wait that long. It'll be good to have you join us again in the future.
I'm happy to hang out anytime, and I will send you some links for your viewers to check out these exercises.
Thank you so much for coming on to today's show.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, there you go, folks. Such a fantastic, practical video today. It's been so. I'm thrilled on all levels. You know, at the very basic level, I'm just thrilled that the show went off without any gremlins attacking it again. But I am just so excited that we were able to have Claudia come on, and so, you know, I think there's real value in rewatching today's video if you get a chance. I will update once I get some links from Claudia. I'll update that into the description of today's video, and so make sure that you check back to grab those. Next week we have Dr. Kari Ragan. We normally have special guests on every second week, but because of what happened last week, we're doubling up. We're going to get 2 for 1. So next week, Dr. Kari Ragan is going to join us. It's going to be another great show. I want you to chime in. If you enjoyed today's show, hit the thumbs up button. Let us know. And also, don't forget to subscribe. Hit the white bell icon just so that you get reminded when we go live. I do hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you again really soon. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.